Hello, this is Thomas Donald Jacobs for Paperboys on Thursdays, and obviously it ain't Thursday. In fact, it will soon be Saturday here. So I'm late, but it's not my usual procrastination or the COVID malaise that has caused time to lose all meaning for me and prevented me from achieving fucking much of anything. Um, no, it's because that this vlog I had a lot of mixed feelings about. I wasn't sure actually until really late last night that I was even going to do it. Um, I have said elsewhere that I don't think it is a good idea for people in the transgender community to air our dirty laundry in front of cis people. And I still think that that is, by and large, the best policy. Cis people, our allies, do not understand that shit. They're not in it like we are. They're not in it. Um, they understand none of the things about these fights. And on the other hand, there are also plenty, plenty of transphobes and TERFs, and yeah, some seriously self-loathing trans people who have signed on with those other cretins who get off on it. They like seeing us fight. They literally get off on this shit because it serves their agenda to destroy what little gains that we have made and to take us back to when, if we transitioned at all, nobody knew. Nobody talked openly. The vast majority of trans people received no care whatsoever. And if we, killed ourselves, what the fuck do they care? They don't. They don't care. So they get off on that shit, and I do not want to feed it. But in this instance, I feel like maybe I do have something to add to this particular conversation. So, Buck Angel. First, some backstory. I did not medically transition until in my late 30s. I'm about to turn 42 at the end of this month. I'm old. Not boomer old, but old. And that might have been how I finished up, but that's not where I started out. When I first looked into transitioning medically, talked to someone about my gender dysphoria and what possibly, my options were, I was 19. I talked to one therapist. That was shit. Talked to two others in my early 20s. That was shit. And then I just suppressed all of it, for the 20 years afterwards. And I was miserable. And I was an awful person. I was terrible to the people around me. I'm probably not that great now, but I'm better than I was. And it was a horrible experience trying to transition 20, 30 years ago. It sucked. And you were told, and I was told by all three of those therapists, who probably, let's be honest, at least two of them, I think, thought that they were doing the right thing, that they were following guidelines, and they were following the guidelines for the time. And then the other one was just a creep and a religious nut who thought I just needed Jesus. But all three of them told me that the best transition was the one that nobody knows about. That you had to be prepared to, as soon as you could pass through all of their hoops, get testosterone, get top surgery, have the hysterectomy, and have the phalloplasty. Mind you, the phalloplasty. Because if you didn't want that big dick, then you were not a real man, trademark. And if necessary, cut off everyone that you had ever known, all of your friends, all of your family, change careers, move to another town if you had to. But never to let anyone know, because it would ruin your life. And it would make everyone think that you were crazy to know that you were transgender, and you would never be happy if anyone knew, etc., etc. And to top it off, what was awful in my particular case, I was stupid and I was honest about the fact that I had attractions towards men, that I was turned on by the idea of fucking other men. And that was not considered legitimate. I was told that the best thing that I could do was to come to terms with being a woman, no matter how uncomfortable I was with my body, no matter how depressed I was. And obviously, things have changed. Happily. But at that time, it was an awful thing to do, to have to go through. And the only counterpart to this, the only person that you saw some 20 odd years ago who was a trans male celebrity, well known enough for his existence to have filtered down into even the tiny, shitty little backwater that I had been living in, was Buck Angel. Buck was openly trans. Buck seemed to be living kind of a good life. Buck was fucking guys, and Buck kept his pussy. All of that seemed radical and amazing, and Buck seemed like kind of a role model. Anytime you felt bad, and I was not the only one, I know this from having talked to other trans people my own age, Buck seemed like the real activist. The guy who was breaking all the rules and proving all of that shit not to be true. And that's why his recent thing is so upsetting. It is, you got whiplash watching him spin in the opposite direction. It's weird. I don't understand it. It's disappointing, to say the least, to see somebody that you once admired fall so far. And, it's been coming for a while. This recent thing, this letter that he signed that I'm going to talk about here in a sec, it's not the first time that he's acted like a dick. Not even close. He's been on a path of assholery for quite some time now. And other people have spoken up about it, and good for them. He should be called out because he's abusive and he targets young people. Buck don't come after people like me. I'm too old. He likes bullying kids and people in their early 20s. And for someone his age, that's a loser move, man. That's pathetic. That's pathetic. But there have been people who have called him out for this, and good. I think the best vlog that I've seen about that was by Alexander Jasper J. I will post the link below for you to watch. He's been a dick for some time, but this letter, I think, was the first time that I really grasped that he is willing to take us all the way back to 20, 30 years ago in terms of treatment for transgender people, just to suck up, for some odd reason that I do not understand, to cis people. Because all of that shit about no one must ever know the best transition is the one that no one knows about, derp, 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 derp. That is for the comfort of cis people. That is not for trans people. That is not for our benefit. That is for cis people, so that they do not feel uncomfortable. And it then justifies whatever discomfort they may have and how they may express it, so that they always have a defense, the trans panic defense. No matter what happens to you as a trans person, they can always justify that by saying, well, you knew that they weren't going to be comfortable with it. And, that makes it okay that someone hurled abuse at you, or someone physically attacked you, or raped you, or killed that person. That's on trans people because we made the cis people feel uncomfortable. That is a cis people problem. That's not a transgender people problem. There's nothing wrong with us and who we are and expressing ourselves. We are not hurting them in any way, shape, or form. So all of that bullshit, that's what Buck wants to take us back to. And I just find it really amazing that somebody who was the epitome of having your own experience and living that experience and being open about it has now done such an about face and is telling other people, especially younger people, that they are transing wrong. I could throw up. It's so disgusting. I could puke thinking about what he would drag us all back to. And all for the sake of these transphobic, turfy cis creeps that he's associating with. And that's why I'm adding my voice to this conversation, because as an older person, I can say quite legitimately that Buck not only does not have a grasp on the present, but he has forgotten the past. I was there, man. You keep talking about back in my day. Fucker, I am from back in your day. And it sucked. Yeah. Yeah, I'm angry. Shitting on younger people because they seem to be enjoying their lives in ways that we could not back then is something that we should obviously not be doing. We should be celebrating them. Enjoying watching them do the things that we could not do. Now, mind you, it ain't perfect. And Buck has mischaracterized modern transgender healthcare completely. He has made statements outright or suggesting at times that affirmative transgender care is hormones on demand for everyone. And that's just not true. Buck has no first-hand experience of that. That's not the system that he transitioned under. That is the system that I actually went all the way through with. And that is just not how it works. It's not a case of you wake up one morning and you go to some rando doctor's office and you say, I woke up, I feel like I'm trans, give me my hormones, fucker. That is not how that works. Not even close. You still have to go through therapy. And yes, it is affirmative therapy. But what that is the therapist is not entitled to abuse you like they used to be able to do by, threatening you with dire consequences if anyone ever knew. Or telling you that your sexuality was not legitimate within the transgender context. Or outright dead naming you and misgendering you. And telling you, I'm an authority because I have a degree and I say that you are not trans. Just flat out making that decision on your behalf and citing their medical degree as all the backing they need. It was a lot of abuse. And affirmative care is meant to get rid of that abuse. That's all. That's all. You're still expected to reflect on who you are, what might make you happier, and also what the consequences, good or bad, of transitioning may be. Because it is not all sunshine and rainbows, and no one ever said it was. That's another lie that Buck is told. No one says that. No one is told that transitioning is going to fix all their problems. Nobody. That's not a thing. He is speaking out his ass. But, again, the current system, better than how it was back then. Buck may have forgotten that shit, but I have not. We do not need that. We don't need a return to that. And Buck just needs to, stop talking. He needs to stop talking. He keeps doing this shtick, and he's done it for a couple of years now. He'll go on the show, whatever show, run by some other idiot, and he will run his mouth. He'll say some outrageous shit, and then he'll follow that up with, "I'm just asking questions." Dude, you've been asking the same fucking questions for several years now, and I gotta wonder, man, who have you actually asked? The halfwit sitting next to you? The idiots in that audience? Who have you asked, man? Because it doesn't seem to be anyone who actually knows what the fuck they're talking about, who may have actually been through it. Who have you asked? That is pathetic. It's a cheap-ass rhetorical trick. Tucker Carlson does the same thing with the morons that watch him on Fox. And it basically only impresses stupid people. No one else is buying it, man. No one else is buying it. So outrageous statements Buck has made, continues to make, not just mischaracterizing the nature of current transgender healthcare, just flat out, we don't know what the effects are of puberty blockers long term are on children, blah, blah, blah. Tapping into that whole, think of the children, clutching his pearls. No, Buck, you don't know. Other people know. And the reason why is because there have been studies, because puberty blockers have been given to cis children since the 80s for the treatment of a serious medical condition called precocious puberty. Because people understand that it is probably not a good thing for an 8-year-old girl to go through puberty in elementary school. That doing that as a very small child and being surrounded by other people her own age while she is having her period and has a woman's chest, a full pair of breasts, that is going to have negative consequences. And so that's why cis children have been given them, among other reasons. So doctors are aware of what the long-term effects are. And it's just to hit a pause. Just a pause. It's not medical. You're not transitioning to anything at that point. It's just a pause on physical changes. That's it. That is it. Mischaracterizing that as medical transitioning, shut up. Just shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And you admit it when you're like, I'm just asking questions. I don't know. I'm just asking questions. That's an admission that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But the thing is, you could find out. And you have not. You just keep repeating that shit. Other pseudoscience. Promoting the work of Lisa Lippman, who invented rapid onset gender dysphoria. I'm not going to go into what a bunch of bullshit nonsense that was. Suffice to say, she had to retract that paper. Her own university did not back her. She's been panned left and right. She's not an expert in transgender care anything. If anyone cites her, it's as a joke and as an example of how not to do research. Yeah, quit it, man. There is no, where are all these transgender people coming from back in my day? Fucker, I am from back in your day. The reason why you see more trans people now coming out is because it is safer. It's more socially acceptable, at least in some parts of the world. The healthcare, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but better. We're more in touch with each other. We provide better support for one another. And also, fuck. Some of that's down to you, man. Some of that's down to you for being the example that you used to be of somebody who is going to do it regardless of how they were being told they had to. Some of that's on you, man. So if you don't like it, you got only yourself to blame. What do you think about them apples? I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. His old man shtick, this I'm just asking questions shtick, all of this shit. It's not hitting. It doesn't hit. Um, and then this letter with Ray Blanchard endorsing anything signed onto by or in line with Ray Blanchard's work is saying that we need to go back to how awful things were before, because that is on Ray Blanchard. He spread that shit. That horrible so-called care as it was back then, at least in the United States. That was his baby. He was a legitimate, semi-legitimate at least, scientist at one point. Researching transsexual typologies. It's not an idea he came up with, which is kind of a pattern for him, as it turns out. It was an old idea, first studied by a better scientist back at the start of the 20th century, leading up to World War II, Hirschfeld, who has unfortunately been largely forgotten, largely because his work was destroyed by Nazis. And that's not hyperbole. Literally, his work was destroyed by Nazis. One of those famous book burning pictures is Nazis burning his library and his life's work. But Ray came along in the 80s, picked it back up, dusted it off, tried to make it his own, and did so in ways that Hirschfeld could never have imagined doing. Basically, transgender people were tricked into seeking care at that clinic. It has since come out how much abuse and humiliation and unethical behavior went on there. That was not care. That was trans people being used as guinea pigs so that Blanchard and other people at that clinic could build their own careers. That's the conspiracy. Blanchard was the person who promoted this idea that you couldn't be gay and trans. That's his. He's since been entirely discredited. Science does move on. That's a normal thing in science. That's how science works. And real scientists, when that happens, when their theories are proven wrong, they get the fuck over it and they too move on. Blanchard has not been able to do that. He's still pushing his crap. He tried to get something into one of the latest editions of the DSM, the Diagnostic Statisticians Manual. Got told to fuck off. And he even admitted at that point that he had made that particular thing up. So, what a con, right? What a con. And, he's such a pariah at this point. He hasn't published in a legit journal, I think, in like 5 or 6 years. What he's doing now is apparently stealing conspiracies posted by randos on Twitter and promoting them as his own. Now, that's sad. That's wow, you have totally free fallen into the abyss shit, man. Yeah, he retweeted this thing claiming that anime causes people to be transgender. Yeah, that's for sure what happened to me, man. I saw Grave of the Fireflies once when I was a teenager, and boom, it hit me. Whatever. He denied doing that initially. Now, he's kind of trying to make it his own thing. Not in like a real scientific journal, because he's not welcome there, but in op-eds like over on Medium, where his account has been banned because bigotry is against the terms of service, and he had to learn that the hard way. So yeah, he's an angry discredited quack who can't get over the fact that science has moved on. And he doesn't like the fact that transgender people are speaking out about those kinds of abusive practices, like what went on at the clinic that he was at. Doesn't like that. And it's 21st century, man. Nothing about us without us. Don't like it? Get a different job. But that's what Buck signed on to. That's what Buck is promoting. Him and those 4 other idiots. That letter has disappeared, and I'm not going to go into any of the other bullshit in it. There's like this weird conspiracy thing, and this thing about some trans women not being real trans women, just being predators and blah, blah, blah. Jessie Gender covered all of that and did a really excellent job. I don't need to add my 2 cents to that. I have nothing to add to that. She did it perfectly. But I will say that, that conspiracy shit that's in that letter that Buck signed on to, you can see that being picked up by the Q weirdos in some places now. So thanks a lot, you prick. We don't need that. Nobody needs that. And, yeah, that was basically it. Just, pointing out, Buck doesn't have the monopoly on the transgender past. Some of us were there too, and it ain't what he says it was, and we don't want to go back to it. Things are better now, and I'm happy for younger people. And I hope things continue to improve for them. And we for sure need much better role models. I'm embarrassed by Buck. I guess mostly I'm embarrassed by myself. I know at some point in the past I probably told somebody, no, Buck's awesome, go look him up. If I ever said that to you, I am so sorry. So fucking sorry. We definitely need better representation. If you're a cis ally, don't platform Buck. Why would you do that? He doesn't speak for any of us. It's just him and those 4 other little idiots who signed that letter. There's a letter circulating in the wider transmasc community, i.e. everyone else. And we're all signing on to it. I'll put a link below. If you're transmasc, sign it. Buck does not speak for us. Trans women are not our enemies. There's no conspiracy. And for the rest of Buck shit, we don't agree with that either. No one does. It's just Buck and a few weirdos and the cis people that they're sucking up to for some reason. So I just don't get it. I don't know where he thinks he's getting with that. They're not his friends. They're not his friends. Cis people who want to control trans people, that's not your friend, man. I think Blair White got a little taste of that recently. I don't know if she learned anything from it. Who knows? Maybe Buck will have his aha moment. I don't know. We'll see. But in the meantime, I'm going to try and post some more positive things to this channel to make up for the stream of depressing shit that I've posted recently. And make good choices. Watch out for each other. And that means wearing your mask and keeping your distance and washing your hands and getting vaccinated. Because this isn't over yet. And it's clear that, the potato people at least ain't going to be happy until they have incubated airborne Ebola virus, and that is circulating. So watch out for yourselves and each other. And see you soon. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Bye.